For 15 years or so, the word sustainability has been in the air. And I think today, maybe as many as 5,000 of the largest corporations in the world have some sort of project going on that is based on sustainability. Initially, I believe the corporations started to use the term linked to their practices and their processes in attempt to accomplish two things. One, maybe improve some of their operations, save some money, but they were also doing it to increase the value of their brand. Now, what I think is happening is this 500 of the largest corporations in the world that have moved the concept of sustainability way out beyond processes and practices to actually branding the corporation as sustainable and their investment as a sustainable investment. Since sustainability is so important, I have decided to invite a leading executive who devotes her life and energy to helping Silicon Valley become more sustainable. She is Marianna Grossman, and she is the Executive Director of Sustainable Silicon Valley. I'm going to ask her a series of questions to learn more about sustainability. Marianna, how are you today?
I'm great. How are you today, Michael?
With you here, I feel really good. By the way, how long have you been the Executive Director of Sustainable Silicon Valley?
Nearly 4 years.
Nearly 4 years. And I have had an opportunity to watch your progress for, I guess, about 2 years. And, I've always had my eye on sustainability, but before I noticed you, I had some sense that your organization was a bit sleepy, and I don't want to, forgive me. But in the last 2 years, I have seen you make step after step of real great progress. And one of the things that I think is a real coup that you have done is formed an alliance with NASA.
We have a wonderful partnership with NASA. We have over 100 partners of all kinds, companies, government agencies, and other nonprofits, universities. In our partnership with NASA, we're doing some really deep work on looking at sustainability on a planetary scale.
Okay, so NASA, and then you have 100. We'll stay with NASA and planetary scale. If you think that's large enough for you?
I think that'll do. NASA obviously has a universal mission, but they're thinking about how to bring their technology to support life out in space to support life on planet Earth. And they have all kinds of resources to do that, and we're working together to put on a great conference in May on solutions that can support planetary sustainability.
All right. Is this a one-day conference?
Yes, it's a one-day conference. We have started by having a competition that we're calling a Call for Solutions, which is open until January 15th of 2013. And we'll have judges. We have experts from all different fields: water, energy, technology, policy, economics, looking at the solutions. And the finalists will be announced on March 7th at a special event in Silicon Valley. And then the conference will be held on May 23rd.
I missed one thing. These are solutions for what?
Well, sustainability really talks about all the different systems on the planet that support life. So there are things like the water system, the hydrological cycle that circulates water between the oceans and weather systems and back down through precipitation, and so that water is available from our point of view for human beings to use for drinking or agriculture or industrial purposes.
I'm going to interrupt, and
Yeah.
I'm sure there's others, but these solutions, would I be correct to say, since you said water, and then we have NASA over here, you here, and then we have third parties. You, NASA, are trying to bring in individuals and corporations that have developed some significant development that can be used in somehow or another to make sure we have good water,
energy, for agriculture, for smart energy systems There could be a lot of different examples of things that human beings need to figure out how to do better so that we reduce pollution and we increase our resiliency on the planet.
So, but this is all related. I'm on water still, right?
Yes, okay.
So, if I'm a business person or a venture capitalist or some other, I might want to go to this, and I'm interested in water. You know, for some reason I have a background in, you know, a company, whatever. I would be able to go to this event and possibly I might see some potential solutions that might have the scope of helping Silicon Valley handle their water requirements somehow. Just
Absolutely. So
it's just
if we just
limited just to Silicon Valley scopes, or are you folks on anything?
no,
bigger?
we're inviting people from all over the world to submit solutions and to participate. We're hoping to have some satellite locations that will broadcast to. But let me just take the example
Sure.
of water a little further. Climate change is one of the examples of disruption caused by human beings that's destabilizing the atmosphere and the way our weather systems work. Water is going to be one of the highest impacted areas. So, for example, you need water to cool a thermonuclear power plant. And in the summer, when there's more demand for electricity and the water is warmer, you can have a power plant melt down or not be able to cool itself because the water resources are not available and they're not cool enough because outside temperatures are so hot. That has happened a couple of times in the last few years.
Oh, really?
As one example. Or they're just not, or there's drought or floods. Actually, what's weird about water is that the amount of water that you need and the timing of that water is different than it used to be, and that causes a lot of problems for agriculture. Look at the storm Sandy with the city of New York flooding the subway system and destroying many buildings and properties. So water where it doesn't belong or where you need it and in a drought situation where you don't have it, those are examples of effects of climate change on water.
Okay, but the solutions that you and NASA are looking at would include the purification of water.
Right,
okay.
Rainwater harvesting, purification, reuse of water, figuring out technologies that use less water. For example, semiconductor industry uses water to clean things. Well, can they find things like use air or other methods for cleaning, not water, so that they can save a lot of water? And Intel and other companies have done a lot of innovation in finding substitutions for water, so their use of water is reduced.
Wonderful. Could you cite another life support system so I can further get a better understanding of this conference?
Well, another example of life support system is the idea of photosynthesis, where plants take sunlight and turn it into woody material or starchy material that provides food or fiber or building materials. So when you start to have an imbalance with the way that the climate works, you start to impact the ability of the agricultural system to work properly, for example. So another example might be some technology that NASA's developed to use satellite technology and communications technology to send information to farmers about what the moisture level is in the soil and what kind of irrigation they should be using. So that's an example where you have several different systems: satellites, technology, phone communications, observation capabilities, and understanding agricultural science.
Okay, water, agriculture, photosynthesis, and anything
Energy
related.
systems would be another example. So looking at disaggregating our utility system so that we have smart grids that are more on a micro or smaller scale, so that when you have a tree come down, the whole utility system doesn't stop working. Also, ability to bring in regenerative energy systems like solar or wind that can keep sustaining themselves, and integrating those into the utility system so you don't have to rely just on burning fossil fuels.
So the model you and NASA are working on is the life support systems of this planet, which is defined somewhere probably by the UN or others. And you and NASA are open to inputs, offering
Yes,
them in any one of the life support
and we
areas.
think there are a couple different ways that change happens. Having great technology is part of it, having policies that support the implementation of that technology, supporting human behavior change, how to get us out of our solo cars and to use bikes and public transit would be another example where you're getting people to change the way they use energy or change the way they conduct their lives. So we're looking for solutions in technology, in policy, in behavior change, in communications, and our range of topics is quite wide: energy, water, transportation. It could even be financial systems or
How do
or
financial
entertainment.
systems fit in with life support systems?
Well, right now, a lot of times the cost, the true cost of an activity doesn't include what economists would call externalities. So, for example, a coal company can blow up a mountain, extract the coal, burn it. They're creating pollution along the way and creating asthma and air pollution, other kinds of consequences, acid rain and climate change. And the cost of the coal appears to be very cheap when you're buying the electricity from the power plant. But in fact, the social costs are not being accounted for in that cost of that energy.
That's what you meant by financial systems.
That would be an example.
Okay.
So then you add a tax or a cap and trade system or some other way of showing the social cost to show up so that when somebody's making an economic decision about choosing solar power versus electricity from coal, all of a sudden the solar power is much cheaper because the health costs are less, the environmental costs are less, the costs to the climate are less. And it's a way of bringing those costs into the actual price that a consumer would see or a company would see.
First, when you said financial systems, my mind went to payment systems, treasury systems, those things that are the fundamental processes of various types of banks. But you are not there. You are somewhere else. You're looking at a big ecosystem that includes companies, users, consumers, and whatever.
Right. And all the different elements have the education system, the banking system, all those systems, human systems, also have a role to play in shifting society away from just using up the Earth's resources to using them over and over again in a more responsible kind of way. So the banking systems, for example, the way interest is handled or the way transactions are managed also play into that. Right now, there are a lot of incentives that encourage people to play games with the financial system for short-term results.
So I can see something about you. I mean, you have really segmented a lot of things, and you got a lot of things going, but you tend to look at the public service value of a lot of things, where and I think a lot of people that would really like to come to your conference, because I can see the opportunity. These are business opportunities that you are tremendous business.
And I think one of the things is that business is operating in some ways with unpriced risk. Let me give you an example of what I mean. When you run a business, you buy fire insurance because the cost of a fire could be catastrophic, even though the chance of a fire is very low. Well, there are now new kinds of risks like Superstorm Sandy or the typhoons in Thailand that wiped out or in the Philippines that wiped out the disk drive industry there. So those are business risks that are very real. There's a real cost associated with them, but companies are discounting them to the rate of zero. They're basically assuming that there's not a risk there. They're starting to look at how do they price the risk on their supply chain and what different strategies might they make in terms of just-in-time inventory management, having multiple sources of supply, or other kinds of, so a little bit of backup supply so that they can start to deal with these uncertainties of catastrophic weather events.
And when you mentioned Sandy and some of the other things you're saying, it made me think about what's been happening in the House of Representatives. New Jersey and New York want probably $60 billion to help recover from Sandy. And there are folks who now, mostly Republicans and some Democrats, who do not want to, add that to our debt. Whereas if we had taken half of that, $50 or $60 billion over the last few years and possibly applied it to trying to slow the growth of climate change and global warming, maybe that storm might not have been
so fierce.
So
I think that's true. I think we've passed the tipping point. I think we're going to continue to have worse and worse storms because carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases take a couple of decades to hit the atmosphere. So Superstorm Sandy is actually an artifact of maybe 2 decades ago worth of pollution. So the storms that are coming are going to be, no matter what we do, are going to get worse and worse. So what we have to do is to say, yes, we need to radically change our energy system as fast as possible to clean sources of energy to prevent even worse storms for our grandchildren.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, we're going to need to make our systems resilient and smart. And when we spend that money to recover from the next hurricane, tornado, drought, or whatever, that we underground our utilities, that we make them smart, that we bring in renewable energy, and that becomes the standard for rebuilding. So that's one of the things we're talking about, is how do you bring the innovation of Silicon Valley into urban planning and infrastructure so that as you rebuild, you're rebuilding the future, not the past.
Okay, remind me of something. A lot of that's going to happen at the NASA facility.
This conference.
This conference, and when is it again?
On May 23rd, 2013.
May 23rd,
yes.
2013. And for people who want to get more information and possibly go to it or be a sponsor, where do they go?
They can go to our website, which is sustainablesv.org, or they can go to our EcoCloud site, sustainablesv.org/EcoCloud. And I think that link will be on the back of the show here, or they can just Google EcoCloud or Sustainable Silicon Valley and find out more about our conference.
Okay.
We would welcome people to send in their solutions, to participate, to be a sponsor.
Have a good number of companies or individuals offered solutions?
We've gotten some really exciting, amazing solutions coming in on energy and water and a lot of other topics. And we have some sponsors, Microsoft, NASA, and Silver Spring Networks, which is a smart grid company, are some of our early sponsors.
Okay. Let's see. I have a sense of, this is the NASA Ames. And yes, I know they have head of Earth Sciences there and satellites, okay, and a bunch of things. Silver Springs, what does Silver Springs do?
Silver Spring Networks is a company that makes software and hardware that support utilities in making the utilities smart. So that would be smart meters for electrical meters at your home or at your place of business. It would be technology to run the grid in a much more dynamic way. So using big data and smart sensor technology to be able to have a much more dynamic management of energy supply and demand.
Now, does Silver Springs operate on a California basis or
no? They're a worldwide company.
Worldwide company. Okay.
And they're a young company, but they have utility partners in many places.
So their customers are the utilities,
mainly,
not the consumer.
The consumer might use their product, but they don't sell directly to. They sell to utilities directly.
And Microsoft is also a sponsor of yours. Now, is this a particular division, a line of products that's the sponsor?
Well, it's their community and philanthropy arm invests in projects that they think are worthy. And Microsoft as a company has a strong commitment to sustainability in its products and in its software and in engaging people in all kinds of community involvement.
Okay. A little while ago I asked you what was the benefit for individuals to go to your conference, this one-day conference on May 23rd at NASA Ames, I guess. But what are the benefits to being a sponsor?
Well, we think our sponsors will receive great publicity and name recognition to be affiliated with the kind of innovation and also truth-telling that we're talking about big challenges that require big solutions. One of our goals is to create a better market for clean technology solutions. And that means creating more understanding about the urgency of that need and the value that those solutions provide.
Okay, I want to know, I'm a potential sponsor, for example. I need to know how many people are going to be there.
We expect 500 people there, 500. And from representing many different companies, institutions, universities, government agencies, and utilities, other kinds of decision makers will be there. And then we're also talking to a couple of universities outside of Silicon Valley about potentially hosting local conferences in other regions as well.
Let me see if I get this right, it's nice that you're going to have 500 people, but it's always what's important to sponsors the quality. And you have how many corporate members, companies, roughly?
Well, we have about 2/3 of our members are corporations, so we have over 100 members altogether.
So you have 100 members, and you have, of course, Microsoft.
Google and
Google,
SAP, a lot of technology
Adobe.
companies, Mitsubishi, Adobe Systems, Mitsubishi International.
Okay.
So we have foreign companies and
So,
as well as American-based companies, Hewlett-Packard, IBM, a lot of big companies like that, and then also our water district and other governmental agencies.
okay. So your conference, since you have these members, it's going to be the managers, the executives from your members,
Yes,
which is the heart and soul of Silicon Valley that's going to come to your event.
and this is the fourth conference that I've been associated with in my work with Sustainable Silicon Valley. And one of the pieces of feedback we've gotten from our exhibitors and sponsors is that our conference brings people together who are really interested in taking action. So for people who are selling solutions, this is a great opportunity. We'll also have venture capital people and corporations who are looking for investments. The middle portion of the conference is going to be a matchmaking opportunity for people providing solutions to meet each other. So maybe there are water and energy people who don't normally get to talk, who could find ways of forming alliances and collaborating on solutions. And there will also be companies and venture capitalists looking to make investments, looking for solutions that they could implement themselves or that they could purchase to add to their portfolio of solutions.
My last question is sort of a statement. If I'm going to be a sponsor, you're going to have all this data and access to all these people who have submitted leading edge solutions. Would I be able to come back to you and say, Marianna, I want to meet with so-and-so, I want to get a better understanding? Are you going to facilitate?
Absolutely. One of the things that we do for our sponsors and our partners is introductions. We have a really extensive network, and we love to do that. We love to get people to meet each other because we feel that that's the way that action really takes place in the world.
Okay. Now, I would like to talk a little bit, okay? And you have been kind to invite me to lend you my painting, Resiliency. Is that correct?
That is right. We're looking forward to having that at our conference.
Okay. And I always love having things go to your conferences, and I always love my work going to NASA facilities. And I have brought tonight, in terms of in the digital form, 1/2 of the painting Resiliency. It is a painting that's 24 by 5 feet. It is NASA size. And I'm not finished with it yet. And actually, on February the 6th, the Cantor Museum is bringing a busload of their members to see it in my house, my studio. And it should be just about finished at that point. Now, I was wondering, could we see one of the, okay, this is 6 feet of the 24-foot painting. And I want to share what I did in this particular painting. I'm a believer that the infinity sign is probably the best symbol to represent sustainability. On this 24 feet, 20 feet of it runs this huge yellow infinity sign. And it's my way of saying, I like that symbol. I think it's good for the public. So the whole painting is, the infinity sign runs through it. And this is the second panel, and I want to say a couple of things about it. No, can we go back to the other one for a moment? That is the steel girders from the Twin Towers. This particular panel addresses the need to be able to bounce back after a hit from terrorism, a hit from the weather. And on the left, on the bottom, you see the Gucci sign symbol and 2 people at a table and these eyes and faces coming down. that is part of a challenge we face that's related to climate change, and that is the economic gap. You know, there are people, and more of them are going to be coming, who have nothing, hardly anything, and they see what others have, like you and me, and they want it, and sometimes they do violent things. So that covers two things: the economic gap and the resiliency. Can we have the next photo? This painting, in part, has the Mississippi River in it, at least in my mind, and it ties in with what you said. The water is going to be in different places than where we're used to. Up on the right top is the White House. It's on pylons. It's in a river. The river is, in my thinking, the Mississippi River, and it meanders down to St. Louis. There's the Freedom Arch, and the Mississippi does not go through underneath the Freedom Arch, but it goes on the side. Here it goes right under the arch. And on the left has to do with the political divide. It has to do a lot with you and I losing the power of our vote. And so it's a political divide statement, and it's part of one of the social challenges we face. And there's the bull, and maybe the bull represents Wall Street.
Could I ask you a question?
Yes.
What is your goal with this painting?
I am very, very concerned with helping to create a national narrative that calls for climate change action now. I'm under the belief that Washington will not give us any strong climate change solutions until after 2016. My art is designed to help raise the narrative so Washington hears it. My art is being made for the giant corporations of America that want to share an important public message with the public. That's it. And it's all part of a series called Sustainable America, Restoring Confidence in the Dream. My guest has been Marianna Grossman. She is the head of Sustainable Silicon Valley.